All right, you guys, so we have processed her shooting star technique. As you can see when she looks down, it's very soft. It's not this bold in your face money piece. What it's gonna be is it's gonna be more of a triangle money piece. And now we gotta do the real life scenario is she has gray roots that we need to cover. You can either do it before, during, after. I like to do it after because I can blend out. If I had any hiccups with the teasy lights and making sure that the blends were in there, this is the time you can go back through. I'm gonna be using RUSKin10. We're doing 5NN, 6G, equal parts, 1-to-1 mix ratio with 0 lift. 0 lift with gray coverage because it is going to give more depth and more tone. As long as your color that is in your bowl of color accounts for the gray. So she has 50% gray. So 50% of my formula is that 5NN. Then the other 50% is the 6G. That's gonna ensure I'm getting the gray coverage. The higher the developer I use, the more it's gonna eat through that pigmentation. Therefore, I'm not gonna get as much depth in the gray coverage. So when you're working with gray coverage, make sure you're keeping that in mind. So we have the color mixed up, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna come through, and I work really, really fast when it comes to gray coverage. So first of all, we're gonna work with a 10-minute color. RUSKin10 is not progressive, so it's not gonna go black after 10 minutes. If you are a new stylist and you're not quick at applying color, I highly recommend working with a non-progressive 10-minute color when you are working with it. All right, so I have sectioned her from front to back. We're gonna work on the right side and left side. And how we're gonna go about this is we apply our color onto our color brush, and then we're going to apply it right down the roots. And then once I get the section outlined, I'm gonna go through and we're gonna work in a vertical application. I prefer doing vertical. What I mean by that is we're gonna go vertical. Vertical is gonna help make sure that there's no heavy lines of demarcation. Sometimes when you go through and you do horizontal application with a root color, you can end up with horizontal lines that are heavy. Whenever you're thinking of lines with hair, vertical is gonna soften, horizontal is gonna add weight, and that even goes for like cutting as well. And we're just gonna keep applying the roots. And yes, you can apply gray color, permanent color onto wet hair. It's actually gonna raise the pH balance, opening up the cuticle, allowing for better color deposit. With gray color, I like to make sure when I want more depth, more tone, I'm gonna work with a lower developer. Everyone in beauty school, you are taught 20 volume is king. 20 volume is what you use when you are doing any sort of gray coverage. But have you ever done gray coverage and you go to rinse it out and it has like that sheerness to it, almost like a hot root, and you're not getting that depth and that tone? That's because your developer is eating through that pigmentation. Therefore, you're not getting as much depth and tone that you would with a extra large brush. See how wide this brush is? It's not your traditional brush. Having these wider brushes really, really help. And there's two different brushes that you work with. So this one has softer bristles. So it's gonna help with blending out the root color. That is really great for when you're wanting to do shadow root, making sure that there's no harsh lines. This is the one I'm going to use for any sort of melting, and I'm wanting to make sure that I'm melting and creating soft coverage all throughout her color, versus there's extra large color brushes that look just like this one, but they are a stiff bristle. Why would I want a stiff bristle? A stiff bristle is really great when you're wanting more control over your color. When do I want more control? I like having more control when I'm doing like any sort of bleach touch-up, because you do not want to overlap your bleach. And that's when I will reach for the stiffer bristle, because you can really control how much color is on top of your bristles. You're gonna make sure that you're not melting it over. The last thing we want to do is to overlap bleach on bleach. So that's when I definitely use the stiffer bristle. And you guys are seeing how fast I am getting on this color. Root touch-ups used to take me really long to do. These are the techniques of me cutting down my time. It's having this extra large brush. It's working in 2 quadrants, a right side and left side. And also making sure you have enough color in your color bowl so you're not having to remix. That's really gonna help with you. So now we're getting up into the shooting star technique. You can see up close right there, everything is very softly blended. So I wanna make sure when I'm coming through and I'm hitting onto these roots that I'm not blending out too much of that blonde and removing that blonde, because we spent time placing it. So we wanna make sure that the blonde is there that we want, and we are not just removing it with our gray root touch-up. I'm really holding tension on my left hand, coming through, applying the color, vertical, and it's always holding these ends and keeping control. Finger combing with my fingers, pulling it back. This is a great way for a root application as well, because it is going to apply the color backwards, and therefore it's not going to be resting on my client's face. It's going to be opening up her face, and she's not going to have any issues with that, especially if they're moving around or doing something. You won't have to worry about that. Now we're getting into hiccup. Those are the teasy lids that are still living there. That's why I keep a brush still on my tray. And we're going to brush through these ends. This is a gentle detangle brush, so I'm not ripping through. There's no hair left in this brush. The hair is still in great shape. And we're just gonna go through and make sure we really get her front hairline covered. And we are taking nice fine vertical slices. Now we're getting up to the very, very tippy hairline where you're gonna be seeing a bunch of the baby hairs. And you really, really need to finesse and take your time and not rush. I'm slightly dipping in where it's just on the edge. I don't have a messy brush, so I can come on tight onto these baby hairs and really make sure that I'm getting that coverage for her. And then we're gonna come get this last section. Voila, that is the whole right side. I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna work on the other side of her hair. We're gonna process for just a quick 10 minutes. And then I will be back to show you guys the end beautiful result.